Yes, sir.
It's Couch Champions time.
Couch Champions in the house.
Episode 4. Wait, this episode 4?
4
Episode
down.
four.
It's episode 4. Wow. Episode 4. Wow. Welcome back again, guys, to the Couch Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Hope everyone listening is happy, healthy, and plotting the imminent fantasy demise of your league mates. Gentlemen.
Every day.
Every day.
Salivating.
All day, every day.
Just can't wait to destroy. That's what we do. We are Xander, Sherlin, and Theo, and we are your Couch Champions. We're here to bring you all of the in-depth fantasy analysis your hearts can handle. Gentlemen, how you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling good, man. I get the
Feeling good?
opportunity to talk some fantasy, and I'm ready.
Always ready to talk fantasy.
Just finished our Dynasty draft last week.
Boy, was it a doozy.
How y'all feel?
I think I got some good players, man.
Hey,
You didn't have a pick until the second round, eh?
I had 2 picks in the second round.
Mm.
And then with my last pick, I was contemplating because the play I wanted got ghosted, so I had to ghost a player in return.
Well, speaking about ghosts, you took my ghost move player from the podcast last week, but you know what?
And then
I'm gonna charge that to the game.
I'm very appreciative of you for putting him on my radar.
Xander, we cannot be doing that to each other. We have to keep this relationship strong. We can't have the group breaking up over actual dynasty problems.
But you know what? For the people out there, I doing it for you. And guess what? I still could scrape me a fantasy victory despite Glenn swiping my players.
That should bring more confidence because it's like, all right, he listed a player and we were confident enough to go with his player.
But guess what, Sherlin? If you want him, all you gotta do is go over to Xander and trade.
Hey, and that's what this episode is about, right? Trades.
That's what it's all about.
Talking trades.
We want to talk about some trades this week. We want to talk about trading and its importance to your league, whether it be dynasty, whether it be redraft. No matter what type of fantasy league you play in, trading is important. You have to do what you have to do to grow your team. And sometimes you play in leagues with some waiver hungry gentlemen or ladies. So you can't always lean on the waiver.
Yep.
Sometimes you got to trade.
Especially when you play in a league with Theo.
What does that mean?
I mean,
what does that mean?
They don't even hit the wire yet, and they gone.
Listen, don't blame me if I have my phone set to automatically notify when someone is dropped or picked up anywhere else.
And automatically pick up as well.
Theo's a waiver watcher.
What?
Listen, man, you have to be a vulture out here on these streets.
Boy, I think Adam Schefter is run his notes by Theo first before he releases it.
Yes, but trades make your leagues more interactive, guys. It's entertaining, it's competitive, and at the end of the day, the saying is true. If you're not trading, you're not trying. So this week we want to talk a little bit about some trade offers that you can make, some trade players that you might want to avoid, and just some trade strategies that we have all implemented throughout our time playing this wonderful game. But first things first, we want to talk a little bit about some transactions that each of us have had playing fantasy. We want to talk about some trades that we won and some trades that we lost and give you all a little bit of insight into what we actually do, because we're not just going to preach something to y'all and then don't do it. I mean, Xander might do that, but I won't do that.
All right.
I like that.
Anyway, but let's kick it off, man.
Since you throw me under the bus, I can go first.
All right, let's go first then. I think
I can talk about a trade I won, but not just I won. The person I traded with won as well.
Okay.
I had the persons that were traded. I had Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, and a second round pick. I traded those 3 for Saquon Barkley, a third round pick, and Crowder.
Okay. Wow.
So I think it was a very balanced trade for both players, and I was in desperate need of running backs at the time.
Wow.
And he needed a quarterback and he needed a wide receiver. So I think it was a very fair trade. on
Was it
both
a-
ends. So we
was
I
it
both we
remember
both
when you
won.
made this trade.
Was it difficult to execute, or was it like, hey, this makes sense?
He was iffy at first, but I think after I threw in DeAndre Hopkins into it,
Of course, you
then
throw
he was like, okay,
Hopkins into anything.
because at first I was just like, what would it take to get Saquon? And he's like
That's what I
this
was
and
gonna
that, and I
ask.
was like,
How did the trade talk start?
he's like, I'm not sure if I want to move myself. So I was like, okay, if I had Saquon, what would it take to get Saquon out of me? So I was like, all
Okay.
right, I'll give him my top receiver, who's one
Right.
of the best receivers in the league,
Right.
up and coming quarterback who just had a pretty good rookie season,
Right.
and a second round pick.
Okay.
And I think it was a fair trade all around.
That's
It helped
actually a
build
pretty
my-
good.
Go ahead.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good advice there as to what that I think a lot of people don't do. Put yourself in the shoes of the person that you're trying to trade with,
Right.
and don't stop trying to win these trades. You know, it's just like everyone is always trying to win. You know, and I think we're going to be talking about that a little later on, so I'm not going to go into detail.
Yeah.
But that's a good point.
Yeah, that is a good point. Because a lot of people are a bit afraid of trades because they feel that they're losing something. But you know,
Mhm.
it's the best feeling when both of you feel as though that you've won, like you've gotten what you really wanted to get out of the deal.
Yeah.
That's right. And there's a way. See, there's a way, and when I say that, there's a sneaky way to win. Whereas, you know, it's not necessarily going into it trying to win, but knowing a little bit more about certain players and doing your research, doing your due diligence.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not trying to make sure your trade partner is losing, but also if you know something that maybe they don't really know yet, or you have some information that you can get in on the ground floor, or even prepare for something that may happen,
Right.
put yourself on the better side of, you know, winning that trade.
Right. Well, let me jump in with some of my trades in my trade history. So I'll call this one of the trades that I won. Sometimes it just happens that way. You actually just win a trade. And so in this trade, I traded David Johnson and Jordy Nelson. Now let me explain. David Johnson, I got him as the 101 in my startup dynasty draft. The 101. The first game, he breaks his hand.
Oh, boy.
Right? But this was after he had a monumentous year of, I think, 1,000 yards running and 1,000 yards receiving.
Yep.
So to everybody, they were like, this is an unfortunate event. We can't wait to get him back. So I traded David Johnson and I traded Jordy Nelson. Now, Jordy Nelson had just left the Green Bay Packers and went to the Raiders. And we all know the production Jordy Nelson had. So he was full of hype. What I did is I found somebody who was able to get Devontae Adams and Leonard Fournette for those two.
And that's Leonard Fournette from the Jaguars, right?
From the Jaguars.
Yeah.
And so we all know his rookie year was awesome, but his following year, he was a little bit injury prone. So people were down on him. And so I took that little injury dip, and Devontae Adams, he just had, I think, a 1,300 yard season. But before that, he was a little iffy. I think at the max at that time, he might have a 700 yard season and a 900 yard season. And so I think this guy was like, let's sell him high while he still has value. In the end,
You definitely won that trade.
I got Devontae Adams, who was like,
That's a steal.
who had a beastly season
Man.
just last season. And then I was able to flip Leonard Fournette for a second round pick. And so, you know, I can say I don't feel good about it sometimes, but you know, I do have a fantasy championship that I can rest my head on at night, and when I close my eyes, you know, I feel good about it.
Is that cold or?
It's adjustable heat, you know, like the
Okay.
Tempur-Pedic.
Okay. Great.
Tempur-Pedic, yeah.
Great.
You should get one for yourself one of these times.
Listen,
Then the
I
trade I
think we
lost.
need to patent that actually. Tempur-Pedic
Tempur-Pedic fantasy
trophies.
championship?
I think so. Yeah. I like the sound of that.
Okay.
Because you know, you always want to be close to that. You're so right. You always want to be close to that championship you won. I'll never forget the time, you know, and you all will remember too, because I won 2 championships, you know, the same year. On 2 separate leagues. Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So,
man,
Sherlin, you want to talk about a trade you lost?
Unless we want to let Theo glow some more, but let's talk about the trade I lost then. The trade I lost happened very, very recently, and I'm still a little bit hurting about it. Um,
Oh, I know what this is.
so where's my notes? Oh, yeah. So I was got punched by Mr. Urban Meyer. I was stacked at wide receiver in my dynasty team. Um, and I said, hey, I need a third running back. Um, I'm already strong with Derrick Henry and Austin Eckler. I just need a third running back. I'm going to get Mr. Robinson from the Jaguars. And so
Hmm.
I traded
Great
away.
season last season.
Oh, great season, great season. I traded away my beloved Terry McLaurin to get him.
Oof.
And then a
Oof.
few weeks later, Mr. Urban Meyer decides to draft in the first round Mr. Etienne,
Ouch.
who for sure is going to be the lead back in that backfield.
Oh, we know.
Yeah,
No one's listening to
He's a
anything he's
third
talking about.
down
Third
back.
down back. Third down back.
we
1-2
talked
punch. I want to be top 8 in rushing in the league.
we talked about this before. And so, I mean, this one I charge to the game because you have to take risk, and you
Yeah.
have to look into the future. Sometimes the future is not so bright, and you'll see
Hmm.
that 2020. But at the same time, uh, who knows? They may be a 1-2 punch. They may be top 8, top 10 in the league. You never know. And well, we talk about this a little later on. Yeah, let's save that a little bit later on. That's one of my trade tips for later.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll jump in here and I'll talk about this one. I'll keep this quick. This is a trade that happened earlier in our dynasty team as well, in our dynasty league. I was definitely looking for help in the running back section. My team had a lot of big players, but not necessarily guys that could give me consistent numbers. And so this was around the time of On Johnson, the On Johnson hype. I think he had just gone to the Lions, and a
Short
certain
live hype.
I had been listening to a certain podcast that really just made me excited for this guy, On Johnson. I
He's
mean,
here to rescue your league.
oh my goodness, it's just I thought it was I was in love with On Johnson. So this was a hard trade for me to make, was because I had him, but uh, you know, there was a hype among this running back that came in the league, very young age, top running back in that draft. I think it was about 2 years ago, David Montgomery.
Right.
And the issue was that the person wanted, I think at the time I had Aaron Jones and I Aaron Johnson, and the person was trying to get Aaron Jones from me. And I really did not want to trade Aaron Jones at the time. And it was Sherlin and I, you always would have conversations about Aaron Jones, talking about what his value was. I won that, by the way. I think it's fair to say that, I won that discussion. We could talk about that later. I see your
We'll
face.
talk about that later.
So I traded. And at the end of the day, I ended up trading away On Johnson and a first for David Montgomery. At the time, I think my league mates, everyone was flabbergasted by this trade.
Hold on, Kevin Johnson and a first
Yes.
Whoa, I forget you traded
for
first. for
David
him.
Montgomery alone.
It was David Montgomery and I believe Miko Lardman.
Okay, no, you have to add the Miko Hardman part in.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Other than that-
you have to. You have to.
No. And Miko Lardman.
And you have to say that, remember the hype about Miko Hardman, he was going to be the second.
There was, at the time, there was a lot of hype about Miko. I think he had just been drafted as well.
See, I'm helping your reputation, Theo.
We expected him. Listen, I am. Y'all may not be happy with what Montgomery is now, but I'm talking about what I want to bring about with this trade is, especially in Dynasty, as time passes, trades get better or worse based on what happens to those players that you trade in a Dynasty league. The trade can either become something that is a bane of your existence, or it ends up being one of the best things you ever did.
Right.
Yep.
David Montgomery is thriving. Had a great season last season. He had a great season last season.
Debatable.
And he had a great season last season. Look at his scores. He had a great season last season.
Games.
Yeah, he had a great final 4 games.
Listen, he was, even before that, he provided a level of nice medium consistency,
Yeah, so
except
don't
for
call
those
it
one or
great.
two games.
So don't
And
call it
Moving
great.
on.
this is
Moving on.
no,
Where's Kerryon
this
Johnson
is
right
an
now?
early trade tip. ABC, always be trading or selling. Because Theo is still trying to bolster the
I
value of
am.
David
I'm.
Montgomery,
I'm
but
not
it's
selling
still
Montgomery. Listen, everyone is a little. I'm waiting. I'm gonna hold on Montgomery and watch all of you all. You all eat my humble pie. Y'all gonna enjoy eating that because Montgomery's gonna be great again this season, and y'all just gonna have to come to me, and I'm just gonna take in all the trade offers. And
all right, buddy. Go
but
hold your
anyway,
breath.
I say that to say Kerryon Johnson is now
Who
fourth
knows?
string on the Eagles.
I
You
think
know,
I saw
he's
him at AF Adley Gym the other day.
But
Who knows?
yeah, at the end of the day, that came around, and then I made that move. And sometimes you have to be willing to make a move for a person that you love, especially if you see uh, you can kind of see the future on certain players. And Kerryon Johnson had a few concerns. One of them being on the Lions team,
Yeah.
just in general. And so for me, that was enough to warrant maybe trying to get out and get on the new hotness.
And I guess this is another tip too that you can't be a fan in fantasy. That's one of my favorite things.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Very true.
And so some of the guys who you really love, this guy may be on your team. This guy may be somebody you drafted and he broke out when you told everybody he was going to break out and he did. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you have to trade him at his highest value so that you can keep having value on your team.
Yep.
Very true.
Agreed.
Be willing to jump ship before. Don't be left holding the bag.
Right.
It's
Yep.
the worst thing that can happen. We as fantasy players, sometimes we have to be able to see the future a little bit.
A little bit.
Just a little
Sometimes
bit. Just a little bit.
sometimes with some
Read your magic ball.
sometimes with some foggy goggles, but some things
Yeah.
you don't want to see, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
You have
charging
some
to the hip.
foggy. You have some foggy Jalen Hurts goggles right now, but we ain't
Very,
talking about
very
that.
fun.
Oh, we gonna
Yeah,
talk about my boy later. Hurts. Woo! Just hearing this name.
All right. Moving right along. We want to talk about some now we want to talk about some trade targets, guys, in your leagues. We want to talk about trade targets, tradeaways, and just players you flat out need to avoid trading for. I
Oscar
think in every
poison.
league there's players that you need to be mindful for in each of these categories, and it's not always just at the very forefront. So we just want to talk about some of these guys that you might not be thinking should be in the category, but maybe you should do a little bit more just to make sure you're doing everything you need to do to make your team the strongest it can be. Xander, I think you're doing trade targets.
Yes, I am. So my trade targets are Saquon Barkley and DJ Chark.
Interesting.
Now, why I said Saquon
Saquon,
Barkley,
that's a big trade target right there.
That's
it's
a
a
big one.
it's a big trade target. But of course, we all know he was injured last season, and who knows? The person who's holding him may be iffy about whether or not he can be the same player, and you may
Right.
be able to get a trade out of them.
Right.
It doesn't hurt to kick the tires on players and see how the owners feeling. They may be willing to trade a big player. You never know. So this is I feel like Saquon's gonna bounce back, which is why I'm holding him in my league. But
Okay.
this
Is
is probably
is this how you feel, or is this what you're praying for?
no, this is how I feel. Listen, I assembled an infinity gauntlet worth of players last season, and they all got injured, and I want to see them thrive.
I know.
So I
What
am
a tough one.
hoping, and I feel like Saquon's gonna bounce back. But this is probably as low as his value is gonna get like in the next 2 to 3 years. So if you want to
Honestly,
get him, this is probably the best time to try and get him out of that owner.
I agree.
I agree. Too.
And for DJ Chark, my reasoning behind him is he had a good season last year.
I love
I feel
hearing
like
this, by the way.
I feel like he's a great wide receiver. But I also feel like Trevor Lawrence is going to stumble in those first couple of games, and Chark may have a bad showing. So you want to watch those games. And if he does have a bad showing, that might be the time to hit up the Chark owner. Say, hey, this ain't looking too good. You want to get him off your roster?
Wow.
Attack him when his value is low.
What's a
Because I
bold
feel
take?
like when I heard Trevor hasn't lost a regular season game since high school, I was like, people in
Man,
the NFL
yeah,
are gonna be they're gonna be salivating to hit him.
I saw that stat.
They're
Oh
gonna
man,
make sure he lose them first games, buddy. So that may cause Chark's value to drop a bit in those first couple of games. So you
Mhm.
want to watch that, and if it does, target the Chark owner and see if he's willing to trade.
Yeah,
Okay.
I really think that the Chark Lawrence connection could be something special. Well, for my dynasty team, I'm really hoping that it's something special. But even other than that, I think Chark, Chark is an interesting case because last season was kind of up and down, but also the quarterback play was up and down. So
Yeah,
it's kind of you're dealing with a chicken or the egg thing with Chark.
You had a few injuries as well.
He did, he
Yeah,
did.
he had a few injuries as well.
So it's going to be interesting to see what he can do with Trevor Lawrence, the much long-awaited Trevor Lawrence.
yeah.
I am
But
slightly concerned. I'm not. I mean, whenever
As am
people
I.
praise someone a lot, it's always difficult
Yeah.
to imagine that they're going to be as good as the consensus expects.
at the same time, I think that may make Chark's price a little higher than it should be right now.
This is why I
Mm-hmm.
said wait for those first couple of games.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because people may be like, oh, I had such high expectations that this ain't it. Maybe I
Mm.
was too gung-ho over Chark. Let me get out of this.
Or maybe you could buy Chark now before people get a chance to see what Trevor Lawrence is. Maybe you can reverse like them. Hey, Trevor Lawrence is too hyped right now. There's no way he can do what he wants to do. Just sell off all the assets.
I just feel like fantasy owners, we always feel like we have the greatest version of the player. So
We
Yeah,
do.
it's
We
so
do.
hard to talk someone down off of a player that they
Because it's
really
always
like.
like, if this player's so bad, why you want him?
that's true. You got to be a little crafty with your arguments.
You got to come at it, and we know Sherlin, you got to be in crafty.
Well,
Now while we're talking about trade targets, let's talk about players you don't want.
right. So I mean, this one was a little tough for me. Um, and it's mainly for Dynasty. And so
Mhm.
these two guys I targeted is because their situations are a bit shaky. And so it's Jimmy G and the 49ers and Cam Newton. And so both of them are literally playing for their lives. We don't know if they're going to last 2 games, 3 games, 4 games as a starting quarterback or even on their teams. Don't even know if they're going to make it to the off season. And so
Mhm.
trades like that you want to avoid because there's a lot of uncertainty there, and especially when they've got rookies behind them watching over their shoulders. So I'm not saying don't have them on your team, but definitely if you have them, you definitely need to have another quarterback just in case something goes wrong. But on a week to week basis, you can still have them on your team, but you have to play the matchups. Don't invest any long term capital into these two guys. That's Cam Newton and Jimmy G. Mark my words.
Yeah, I would
Mm.
agree. If you have them on your roster already, cool. But I would not actively go out and seek these players because
Right.
I firmly believe neither one will be on their current roster next year, and they both have the potential to be on the bench or in the hospital by mid-season.
Oh,
CMH's finest.
I just feel like I want to play the world's smallest violin right now. It's
I know.
just uh,
Um, and I'll keep this one quick. Another another group of people I'm not targeting this season is any running back from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Um, as we know, we to this day, even after watching a full season with the same roster, they brought all of their guys back. We still don't know who's the starting running back, right?
I don't think they have a starting running back.
You know, and we both know Ronald Jones. He has his fumbling issues, and we know that he can be pulled before in the midst of a fumble. He can be pulled off the field. Leonard
Yep.
Fournette, Leonard Fournette, could have been the Super Bowl MVP, and even his future was uncertain. And so when you have uncertainties, oh, and this is the rookie Vaughn.
Yep.
Vaughn was, from what I've seen, was a promising rookie, and I think he may have played maybe 10 snaps this entire season. He did
Mm-hmm.
battle a little COVID situation, and of
Yep.
course, Bruce Arians is talking him up this year, maybe a little confidence boost. But at the same
I don't
time,
trust it.
and again, Giovanni Bernard, who's a pass catching running back. This is the main point. I should have led with this. Gio Bernard is a pass catching running back. So whichever guy does have the first and second down, definitely won't have that third down pass catching role. And so for that reason, amongst all other reasons, avoid the Bucks backfield.
Yep.
I don't know what it is about Tom Brady and these revolving running backs, but it just seems that you don't want the running back with Tom Brady.
No.
No.
It's not true in the Patriots, and it certainly is not true on the Bucks.
Uh,
Agreed.
It's a dangerous combination.
Now
Um,
those are the players you want to avoid. What about players that you have that you would be better off getting rid of?
yeah. And I'm gonna tackle this one. We're gonna stick with the Buccaneers for right now. I know we're picking on the Buccaneers, but I want to talk about Mike Evans.
ooh,
No.
Ooh. Okay.
So I'm going a little bit against the grain here. Mike
Okay.
Evans is someone that you want to he has that name, right? He has that high name, that high quality name. And Mike Evans has been a top wide receiver in the league for the past 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Always someone that you want to have on your team, never someone you want to play against. But Mike Evans, well, the first thing I want to point out is that Mike Evans had a sneaky good season last season.
He did.
It wasn't as bad as you expected. I think in my mind, even before I started doing research on this, it was Mike Evans went down last season in a major way.
yeah.
But I mean, he actually was on the more I don't want to say mediocre end of consistency. Bringing you about 10 to 15 points a week with high end points of up to 40. Mike Evans actually was someone not necessarily that you can rely on, but someone that can help you to win a week.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
This year with Tom Brady back in that system again, you would almost think that he would, you might be able to spin it in a way that he can usurp that role and go back to that number one wide receiver. But I want you to think about just how many mouths to feed there are in this offense right
So
now.
many.
Yeah.
There's
So
Mike
many.
Evans. You still have the wide
Godwin.
receiver too there. What's his name?
Godwin.
Godwin. You have Godwin there, and you have the litany of tight ends that they have on that
You have
roster right
Antonio
now.
Brown.
Antonio Brown is still there. Not to
Yep.
mention the running backs that you just mentioned out of the backfield,
Yeah.
whoever they may be, and
And
even
then
the rookie wide receiver that they drafted.
yeah.
There's a lot going on. Tom Brady likes to spread the ball around.
He does.
This is going to be a situation again where you are not going to be able to predict when Mike Evans is going to have the game that you need him to have to win your week.
But you know what?
Um,
You know what I do like about your point, Theo, is if you
mhm,
dive into Mike Evans' numbers, you would see that he had games with 2 catches and a touchdown, 3 catches and a
mhm,
touchdown.
mhm.
Yep.
You don't want to be depending on that
No.
because,
He
No,
doesn't have volume.
right. So who's to say that, he will have 2 catches and then he goes out for the rest of the game and that's pretty
right.
much all he gets.
See, the good thing about it too is he was very touchdown dependent last year.
Right,
Yep.
I
right,
think he
right.
had I think he had 8 touchdowns
Yeah,
by the end of the season, maybe more than that. I think he might have had more than that actually. I'm looking at the stats here. Yeah, no, he had actually 13 touchdowns.
wow.
13 touchdowns last season.
So he's an
So
excellent trade away candidate.
excellent.
He
Whenever
is.
you're talking about trading away, you're looking for touchdown variants. Touchdown is one of the least things that you can predict in football in general. From
Yep.
quarterbacks to running backs to wide, everyone touchdown variance is the main thing that changes a player's fantasy season. So you always want to look at how many touchdowns the person has gotten, rate that up against how many targets they got, and that's how you know whether you have someone that's going to be able to provide you consistent value. Mike Evans is not one of those persons right now, and so I'm saying trade him away.
Now I wish I was a Mike Evans owner so I could sell this narrative.
Yeah, that's a very good sell. I mean, and you could pack shot with this is what he did in this first year with Tom Brady. Imagine the second.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, he wasn't bad. You know,
Super
sometimes
Bowl
people try to
champion.
trade away guys and after their terrible season. No, you want to trade away after they had a season that is sneaky good.
Right. And you could get a rookie wide receiver or a young wide
starting
receiver,
running back,
and a pick.
Someone to help grow your team.
You could get a good trade off of Mike Williams.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Mike Evans.
That's an excellent pick.
So the next person I want to talk about is Robby Anderson. I'm going to make this one just a little bit faster. Sam Darnold. Okay, moving on.
Are we that down on Sam Darnold?
Robby Anderson, man. I mean, listen, I like Robby Anderson. And this is why it's hard for me to make because I really like Robby Anderson. I think he's a great wide receiver. But the problem is just that I think a lot of people are thinking that Robby Anderson got his fame with Sam Darnold, mind you.
Exactly.
You know, Robby Anderson, you know, he became a name that we know, not based off on any other quarterback but Sam Darnold. So I think you can sell it off of the belief that, oh, you know, the hometown boy is coming back. You know, that connection is coming back.
You are sneaky,
you know,
Theo.
You have again, you know, there's someone, you know, they are coming back to something that they knew before. He has a whole new playbook to learn, but he has his boy Robby Anderson streaking down the field. He's just going to find him a million times a season.
Yep. Plus, you know, Robby Anderson is the deep threat.
Right.
And Sam Darnold can throw the ball deeper than Teddy can.
Right.
So,
yeah, I think he's someone, and now, mind you, he's not the same type of name as Mike Evans, so you're not trying to get the same type of return that you would get from Mike Evans. But for Robby Anderson, you can get yourself a pick, you know, a prominent pick in the next year's draft. You can get yourself a player that was maybe on the lower end of consistency last season, someone that you might want to get on your team, someone that you know that has had a change in their offense or someone with a little bit more upside.
Right.
Because, I mean, also you have Robby Anderson competing with two other guys as well as Christian McCaffrey, who is going to absorb his certain amount of catches a season as well.
Exactly. Right. And there's only so many deep bombs you can throw in one game.
Right. Two excellent trade away candidates.
Yes, sir.
Really good trade away targets.
All right. So moving right along, I think we want to talk a little bit about some of our greatest trade strategies. We had the trade master Sherlin Gadet on this one.
I'll start it off. And so something that I try to execute every year and something that can sweeten the pot is trading handcuffs. And so the word handcuff in fantasy football is you have a starting running back and you have his backup. The backup is the handcuff. And so what I like to do is to keep at least one handcuff for one of my starting running backs on my team. And sometimes my handcuff can be on someone else's team. So I look for somebody else and I say, hey, you have a handcuff that I want, and I have a handcuff that you want. Both of us, if anything happens to any of our starting running backs, we have the backup. This is a slam dunk. We need to make this trade. 9 times out of 10, the person says, you know, that's reasonable. Of course, sometimes the trading of the handcuffs doesn't work out. But at the end of the day, you have insurance in case something happens to your leading running back. So that's my leading number one strategy to trade.
Okay, I like that. Okay. Definitely something that you want to keep in mind. Handcuffs are important.
This is something we touched on a little earlier. Trading a player after they had a great season.
Right.
One of my biggest recent regrets is not trading Lamar after his his MVP season.
Ouch. Ouch.
I mean, I'm not gonna
Theo,
say,
I'm not talking to you, Theo.
I'm not gonna say
I'm not talking
that,
to you, Theo.
I was, I was just trying to put something out there, but
Did you whisper,
So,
I told you so? Oh, no, you
so
didn't say it. You
to
didn't
the
say it.
I
point,
told you so.
Yeah. Oh,
you
there it is. There it is.
you wanna look at a player and after they had a great season and try to analyze whether or not this player can replicate the season another year, or if you need to move on and get some value while their name is still hot. And even if you think they can replicate it, still look at your roster. Do I have a lot of holes I need to fill? And what's the best asset I have that I can move on from?
Right.
This player just had a great season. I could get some picks and a couple great players for this one player. So don't be too stuck on, oh, they had us a great season, they could do it again. Very rarely do people repeat great seasons.
You're right.
So you want to look at any player that you have that had a really good season and be like, can I move on from this player?
Right. Okay.
Nice.
I have a one of my trading tips. And so it's called trading for a stock. And of course, a stock is, I have Patrick Mahomes, I have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I look at someone else's team, and I may want Travis Kelce and that's a high scoring offense there. And so sometimes I look to see if somebody else may want a stock as well. Hey, you have the quarterback and the running back for this team. I can give you that. That way you can have a stack. These guys are going to score. Hey, let's execute this trade. And for me, 9 times out of 10, my stacks that work. Right now, I'm working with the Tennessee Titans stack, Tannehill, Derrick Henry, and AJ Brown, and it's working beautifully for me right now.
Surprising that it's the Tennessee Titans. So surprising.
So that's not saying that I'm an advocate for stacks, because sometimes it can bite you in the butt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a way of looking at getting the player that you want.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it's always nice to have that combo,
Right.
especially when you're talking about a quarterback and a wide receiver, or a quarterback and his tight end.
Right.
There's nothing like getting those double points.
Right.
Oh man,
Right.
that adrenaline rush. My tip is look for strong players on weak teams. I try to always target and trade teams that need multiple things. And the good thing about this is this works for Dynasty and this works for redraft.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the season, you might see a team that has a couple of losses in a row. Always be aware of what's going on in your league and what's going on with the other players and the other teams in your league. If you see a team just lost their 4th game in a row, this is a perfect time to swoop in and try and offer them something and get one of their better players on their team and try and offload some of your middling players, or someone maybe someone that's also really good, but for a position that you don't need. Maybe you're stacked at wide receiver, but you need a tight end to come in and help you to kind of round off your team. Go in there and try and make that person an offer with more the players that you're strong in. Take a look at your team and see what does your team do really well, and always try to be moving something for that player, because the thing about it is that when you're losing multiple games in a row, your mind is not in a good place.
Yeah, you're not in a good place at all.
You're ready to throw in the towel.
You end up hating your
Not in a
players.
good place.
Look
And
at
so
what you
you're in a
did.
place. Yeah, it's a very altered state of mind, and so you can use that to your advantage. And once again, I'm not saying you're trying to rip off someone, but you can also help that player to get a little bit better by filling out some of the needs that they may have. But you can maybe bag yourself a Devontae Adams, or maybe Christian McCaffrey. Maybe the guy just made a great first pick and the rest of his picks got injured. Right. Be aware of that. Move in and just take a look at these teams that are not doing so well and see what you can offer them to make your team much better.
Right. I mean, on the tail end of that, I have another tip. and it's being mindful of your league teammates and where you are in the season. I know one thing I do in Dynasty is I'm looking towards when is the playoff week. When I find out the playoff week, I look at who's going to be in it, who's going to be out of it. And for teams that are going to be out of it, especially in Dynasty, hey, I noticed that it was a great season. For some teams, yes, better. For some others, and you're not going to make the playoffs. Give me this older asset so that I can make my playoff run, and I can give you something that's going to help you next year, whether it be a pick, whether it can be a developing player who's going to break out next year. That way, I can use a Julio Jones who may have a great matchup in the next week. I may even trade for a defense that's dominating, who in the playoffs weeks I see has great matchups. And so you, that's an excellent trade to make later on in the season, especially if you've got things locked up. Trade away a young developing player if you can get somebody who can help you win that fantasy championship. And that's all that we want, fantasy championships.
Yep. And to that point, I actually did that last season. Coming down to the end, I wasn't too secure in Lamar taking me through the playoffs, so I made a trade for Brady, who was balling.
Right.
And if Brady had balls just that first game of the
A little bit
playoffs,
for yes, a little bit for.
I still hurt for that man. But
Uh,
yeah, I made that trade to the guy. He had several quarterbacks. He didn't need Brady. And I looked at Brady numbers, like Brady could really help me through the playoffs. And I got him. It almost worked, but
It still was a good trade.
just a strategy you gotta keep in your pocket.
Right.
yep, that's definitely a good move. I'm gonna talk about older players, old busted. Those players that seem like they're past their prime or done for the season. You want to look out for these guys, and this is something I think is more of a dynasty thing, but also can be looked at in redraft. But it's players that are a little bit more established tend to not have that same kind of shine on them. Uh, there's definitely ways to use that to your advantage when you are looking at making trades in your league. Uh, Players like Adam Thielen,
Right. Right.
Raheem Mostert,
Right.
players that have roles on their team, but at the same time, you know, they've been doing it for so long at a certain age where you're indifferent.
Right.
There are so much times we try to trade for players that we know that team people love.
You want superstars.
You want superstars, you want those top
Right.
names, but sometimes you just need someone that's gonna help you to stay above the current. You want someone
Right.
that's just gonna keep you afloat while you have your other guys, your heavy hitters that are boom or bust.
You want
Because
all reliable.
sometimes these guys with the names are boom or bust guys.
Right.
But
And
you
I've got
need those guys that are giving you consistency.
All
I've got a
reliable.
perfect game, a perfect name to throw out there. Um, I know it's not a sexy name, but Lamar Miller 3 years ago, no one wanted Lamar Miller.
Oh,
But that's a great point.
it is
No
a
one
great
wanted
point.
Lamar. But when I looked at his numbers, he
Mm-hmm.
was giving me a consistent 10 points floor every game. And that's something that I couldn't depend on any other player to give me. I love Lamar Miller that year. And that's one of those guys that, hey, I can make a championship run with this guy.
Exactly. It's
being
not
my
always
flex.
about the big sexy.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes you take the little normal,
We'll go with that.
little average, little train that could. All right, I'm done. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks.
My final trade tip is what I actually started using last off season was using a trade calculator.
Mm,
For me, it kind of keeps me I don't want to say
honest.
humble. It keeps me honest in terms of valuing my players, because I may value a player way too high. And I punch the players in. It's like, okay, maybe I'm asking for too much for this player, or maybe I ain't asking enough. But the caveat is it isn't gospel. I don't go like, oh well, this is the trade calculator say.
There's definitely some wiggle room in there.
It's definitely wiggle room, but it helps to give me a good floor on
Yeah.
where I could start with a trade, what I should start asking for, or like a baseline, and then I
Mhm.
build off of that. So if you're new to trading, you don't really know how to value players, it's a good place to start to help
Yeah.
you get used to how to value different players.
I've never used one. You want to point to one? We can maybe put
Oh,
put a
I mean,
link.
you could, yeah, we
Please
could
put
drop
a
a
few
link.
links in the YouTube.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
there's a
there,
few
like,
that I use.
you could just type
There's
trade
two separate
calculator,
ones that I
fantasy
use.
trade
Yeah.
calculator in Google,
Hmm.
Okay, see,
and
I've never
then
see
I
you
think
guys
one
have
is
been holding out on me.
fantasy101.com.
Dynasty 101.
You guys have been holding
Dynasty101.com.
out on
Hmm.
me. I've never heard one or used one. But you know what?
Now you know now.
It's for the people.
Hey,
For
go
the
This
see.
people.
We're not just giving information to the people,
Oh,
giving information to each other.
this
right.
is this is what actually helped me pull off the Saquon Barkley trade.
Really now. Okay.
Yeah,
Ah,
Okay. See, everyone's learning.
everyone's learning.
yeah,
All
man.
right, guys. My last tip is stop trying to win trades. I know I alluded to this earlier. Stop trying to win trades. Let's try to have an equal trade. At the end of the day, trying to win trades is more ends up being more of a detriment than a help to you, more cases than not, more times than not.
Yeah,
You going in there trying to absolutely take advantage of a certain person usually just makes them less inclined to do any business with you in the future,
Agree.
yeah,
Agree.
and that makes you less inclined to get the trade done.
Yeah.
When
And
you're
like you
looking at
said,
another team, when you're looking at someone else playing in your league, try and find someone that needs what you have,
right.
and vice
exactly.
versa. It just makes it makes more sense, and at the end of the day, it helps you to be you're not we're not necessarily worried about the other person. And I think I've heard this in the past where someone that I don't want to make this guy stronger. I don't want to give this guy this player, even though I have like five really great running backs. I don't want to give him this running back, even though he has the quarterback that I could use right now, or the tight end that I could use right now. Sometimes you just need to make a move based on what you need
Right.
and
Exactly.
see exactly what that other person needs. Do something for them, man. Do something for reach out and touch somebody's hand.
Yeah, I mean, it's not about not wanting to make the other team strong. It's about making your team better.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
making your team better. At the end of the day, you're trying to be as strong as you can, so you can progress towards those glorious fantasy championships.
Amen, brother. Sharing is caring.
Yes,
Hallelujah.
sharing is caring. I love it.
Hallelujah.
All right, that's 9 tips. We got to round it off with 10.
All right.
10. All right.
What's
I
the number
think I
10?
think I think the 10th tip it should be, and this is going to be right off the cuff.
All right.
Trade.
Trade.
So the tip to
Just
trading is trade.
just trade. I'm listen. I'm serious. Trading is going to help you. It helps your league. It helps your team, and it's just one of the more fun parts about what we do. Fantasy is not just about besting your league mates, even though it's a big part of that. A big part of it is making your team better, especially when if you have a keeper or a dynasty team, a team that you're gonna have for the long haul.
Right.
Trading keeps that league alive.
Agree.
Yep.
Agree.
So find ways to foster trading in your league. Make it easier. Like you said, don't try to win trades. Use a lot of the strategies that we gave you just now and try and make these things happen. It's going to make the experience so much more fun.
Right. Because without trading, basically after the draft, there's nothing left to do. Right.
Exactly.
And so,
Exactly. What are you going to do?
right. And
You're going to
so,
sit there and just watch your player just move the player? Come on now.
oh, come on, man.
Trading is a part of it.
I know that was our last point, but I feel like we should add in there that whilst trading is good, don't over trade.
Is there such thing?
I think there is. I think you could trade yourself into a bad team.
I've done that a few times. I won't
That's
lie.
true. That's true.
Don't trade for the sake of trading.
Yeah, I've done that a few times. Yeah.
I think
That's a good point. That's a good point. I don't like
There
it,
has
but
to
it's
be
a
there
good
has to
point.
come a point where you say, okay, I think my team is at a good place.
Mhm.
Let's wait till the season, see how the team plays out. And if I need to make a move, then I make
Yeah.
a move.
Yeah. Honestly, and for the last few days, I'm still like riding off of the excitement of the draft and these new players. I've literally had to tell myself, let's just be patient
Yeah.
Let's just ride out the
Yeah.
off
So
season.
just see what your team does. You know, let's
what
see.
No one's done nothing. Like even our football players are sitting on their couch right now, but we're like, nah, I don't like him no more. But you liked him last week. Right, so that's a good point.
Yeah, I like that. Well, if that's it, if we don't have anything else, I think we're gonna go ahead and end this episode, gents.
I think we made some good points, man.
You made some good points. So
I know I'm looking forward to getting some trades done.
I feel like trading now.
Sherlin, let's go.
Let's do it, man.
What you got for me?
Let's take it off.
Let me get DK Metcalf.
Yeah, we definitely got to take that offline. What else you got for me, bro? What else? What else?
All right, to be continued on that.
The guy who just ran against the Olympic sprinters. That's what's
Oh my goodness. DK. I mean, listen.
He didn't come last.
He didn't come last. He didn't come last. He held his own. I watched the race.
He beat an Olympic sprinter. And what are you coming at me with? Let's talk.
See, that's the same thing. That's the one. That's the thing we didn't talk about. These values, overvaluing your players.
He
Please
broke the clock.
Please,
price sky high now.
Let's keep football stats in football and not talk about the Olympics. See, and that's exactly what happens there. Now you can't see. But can I make you an offer for DK Metcalf?
Let's talk.
That you will accept? Can someone make you an offer for DK Metcalf that you will accept?
Everything's for sale for me. That's my.
There you go. Motto. That's a good motto to have. Everything should be for sale. Because at the end of the day, it's about making your team better, and everyone has a price.
Amen. Amen.
Every player has a price.
But anyway, guys, we want to thank you all for tuning in to another episode. Please remember to follow us on all the social media networks. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You know, I don't know if there's anything else because I'm an old man now. So I don't know. You know, we're not on TikTok yet, right, guys? I don't think we're on TikTok yet.
No, not yet.
You know, Sander is still learning the dance. You know, you did do the dance before. I got the files actually. So
what dance I do?
Don't give that face.
All right, it's been a great episode, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for joining us on the couch, people.
Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Couch Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Also subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts. We're available at Couch Champions Fantasy Football. That's on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, all the works. We there. You can find it
everywhere.
So just look out for that, guys, and we appreciate your support.
Also, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments.
Yes, please do.
We'll answer them next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.